What's going on, happy people? Welcome back to another episode of DIY Buildouts. Today we're going to be replacing the spark plugs in my 60 horsepower Mercury outboard on the back of the boat. So without further ado, let's just dive right in. First off, just pop the cover off and set that aside. Okay, so this is what we're going to be working with. It's in the back left side of the engine if the boat is facing forwards here. And what you have here are the ignition cylinders of the coils. You got 2, 3, 1, and 4 labeled, and the spark plugs are directly behind them. What I'm going to be doing here is removing these 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to be using a, what is that here? A 5/16. Let me get that to focus. Yep, 5/16 socket head to take these off. Now with this out of the way, I have access to spark plugs 3 and 4, much easier. Now you can see there's 4, 3, 2, and 1. So we're gonna go ahead and pull these coils off, inspect the spark plugs, and replace them with the new ones. Now when you're pulling these off, you just wanna grab, kind of give it a nice little tug. Don't wanna bend anything. Just kind of work your way on the coil. Pop, comes out. You can see the lubricant on there. That's important, especially in a saltwater environment. Keeps everything nice and clean. So we're gonna do one at a time. So let's go ahead and remove that one. Now to take spark plugs out, you will need a specialized spark plug socket, and it has a little rubber thing in there that'll grab the spark plug and actually pull it out nice and easily. So that is why it's so important to have it. So let's go ahead, slide that in there. There we go. Now you'll notice that the little sleeve on here, the collar if you will, is nice and arced compared to the other one that's already been bent down. So this will take a half turn when you initially put it in, whereas this would probably only take a quarter turn, because it's already been flattened. It's just a compression seal that makes sure that it's nice and tight in there, because obviously you're having gasoline explosions. Now the one thing you do have to take into account is the gap of the spark plug. You're going to want to look at the engine specifications to find out what gap you're supposed to be setting to. As you can see here, the one that just came out and the new one are two very different things. My engine was running pretty well, so I would assume that that is probably close to what I want, so I need to adjust this one. But you will need a gapping tool. You can get these pretty much at any automotive shop. And I'll show you how they work really quick if you're not familiar with them. Basically they have all of the specifications or the numbers all the way around them. And all you do is you slide this on here in between the top and bottom there. Slide it on, you slide it around and it'll eventually stop. Okay, so right there. So these are gapped at just over the 0.04, and that's exactly what my engine calls for, is the 0.04. Now if you need to expand your gapping out, as I do, you can do it in a variety of ways. Honestly, some people like to do this. This particular tool from one of the stores, O'Reilly, doesn't really catch very well for bending out. Most of them allow you to grab right there and kind of bend out. I just prefer to slide it on here because it gets a nice firm grip, and I just bend up ever so slightly. You don't have to be very aggressive with it. It's very thin metal, but you can just bend it up ever so slightly as you go. And each time you do that, you'll notice you're going to get a little closer to the gap that you want to be at. Almost there. And now we're sitting right there on the 0.40. And basically you can test again, you just slide it here, work your way up, and then it won't go any farther, which tells me that that is set at the 0.040. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that for each of the spark plugs right now, so that I can just go ahead and install them all at once. But now it's properly gapped. One other thing to note, if I happen to bend it too far and I needed to come back, all you have to do, again, you're just bending a thin piece of metal right here. All you have to do is tap it on a hard surface. I had a cardboard box laid out so I don't scratch the boat, but just tap it on a hard surface and that'll bend it back in, and then you can work your way back up the chain here. And again, you just test it until it stops at the specified number for your engine. Now, I always recommend doing one spark plug at a time, and the reason for that is because in the event you pull all the spark plugs out at once, you don't remember which coil goes to what. So here's the tip if you get into that situation. As you can see on here, these are labeled 2, 3, 1, 4, okay? And those go up as such, but the cylinders are 1, 2, 3, 4, all right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, and these are 2, 3, 1, 4. And all that means is that this coil, number 1, this coil here, 1, goes to the top cylinder. This coil here, number 2, goes to the second cylinder. Now that's how you can figure it out if for some reason you got lost, you did them all at once or something of that nature. Now to reinstall the spark plugs after they have been properly gapped, you want to finger thread them in there with the extension. You don't want to force a wrench and a wrongful thread, if you will. That would just escalate and cause more problems. So finger tighten it in. There we go, hand tight. When it's a new one, you want to do a half turn. When it's a used one that you're just checking and putting back in, it's only going to take a quarter turn, and that's because the compression seal needs to be kind of compressed down the first time you put it in. So in this case, I'm going to do a half turn on this one now. So we go here, and that is a half turn of the spark plug itself, not a half turn of the wrench like that. So I'm going to leave cylinder 3 out of this video. If you've already seen me do 1 and 2, it's pretty straightforward. Coil off, gap, put back in. Coil 3 is the same thing. You can do it with a standard extension. You can reach it. It's not hard. Cylinder 4 down here on the bottom is a little trickier. So what I'm going to show you is that you just take the extension off. You can't fit this down there like that. So if you just use the socket wrench itself, you can just put it vertically, and it's a little bit of a tight fit, but just goes on there just like that. And then you can actually just work it back and forth with your fingers as such, and it will come out. But that is the trick to getting cylinder 4's spark plug out. Okay, so I've gone through the whole process now of replacing all 4 of the spark plugs. I ended up going back through, I found that the one bolt I had down here near cylinder number 4 had loosened a little bit, and you can only access them when the spark plugs were out. So I ended up pulling all the coils and spark plugs back out, and I tightened that one. This one was loose as well, and then this one was solid. So that tells me there's just a little bit of vibration down there, and I was able to solve that when I was doing this. So that's why all the coils are off. So let's go ahead and replace these. Again, I'm going to go over this real quick. When you take off both coils, your whole piece comes off here, and you can remember 1, 2, 3, 4. So in this case, number 2 here is going to go to the second one, and we're going to hear the click. There we go. All right, so now we'll plug in number 3. Just for a little click. All right, there we go. 2 and 3 are attached as such. And this is the upper one where we connect the cables. There we go. Yep, okay, nice solid click. Here, up through here, and that bolts it right there. Always finger start them. Helpful little tag here. This says 1, this says 2, so it tells you, but again, they're kind of pre-mounted to where they should be, but it also reminds you that 2 is up here and 1's down here. All right, guys, that's all for this one. Hopefully you were able to learn something. I know I have taken a lot of valuable information off of YouTube, so I wanted to post something up there that was just as valuable. So if you own this engine or something just like it, maybe this video was helpful for you. If it was, please go ahead and smash the like button for me, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and give me a little bell icon if you want to be notified of all the future videos I will be uploading. Thanks again for watching, guys. Take care.